I propose to set aside a sum of rupees 100 crore for this purpose and an additional 56 crores to set up 100 mobile soil testing laboratories across the country. There has been a growing concern about the imbalance in the utilization of different types of fertilizers, resulting in the deterioration of the soil. Climate change is a reality which all of us have to face together. Agriculture as an activity is most prone to the vagaries of climate change. To meet this challenge, I propose to establish a national adaptation fund for climate change. As an initial sum of rupees 100 crores will be transferred to the fund. We are committed to sustaining a growth of 4% in agriculture, and for this we will bring technology-driven second green revolution with focus on higher productivity and include a protein revolution in an area of major focus. As a large number of landless farmers are unable to provide land title as guarantee, institutional finance is denied to them and they become vulnerable to money lenders. Usurious lending. I propose to provide finance to 5 lakh joint farming groups of Bhumihin Kisan through NABARD in the current financial year. Price volatility in agriculture produces and creates certain uncertainties and hardships to the farmers. To mitigate this, I am providing a sum of rupees 500 crores for establishing a price stabilization fund. The farmers' and consumers' interests will be further served by increasing competition and integrating markets across the country. To accelerate the setting up of a national market, the central government will work closely with the state governments to reorient their respective APMCs to provide the establishment of a private markets. The state government will also be encouraged to develop farmers' markets in townships to enable the farmers to sell their products directly. I propose to set aside a sum of rupees 50 crores for development of indigenous cattle breeding and an equal opportunity of starting a blue revolution in inland fisheries. Banks are providing strong credit support to agricultural sector. A target of 8 lakh crores has been set aside for agriculture credit during 2014-15, for which I am confident that banks will surpass. Under the interest subvention scheme for short-term crop loans, banks are extending loans to farmers at a concessional rate of 7%. The farmers will get a further incentive of 3% for timely repayment. I propose to continue the scheme for 2014-15. NABARD operates the Rural Infrastructure Development Fund out of a priority sector lending shortfall of banks, which helps in creation of infrastructure in agriculture and rural sectors across the country. I propose to raise the corpus of RIDF by an additional 5,000 crores from the target given in the interim budget of 25,000 crores in the current financial year. Increasing warehousing capacity for increasing the shelf life of agriculture produces and thereby earning capacity of the farmers is utmost importance. Keeping in view the urgent need of availability of scientific warehousing infrastructure in the country, I propose an allocation of rupees 5,000 crores for the fund for the year 2014-15. The share of long-term investment credit in agriculture is going down as compared to short-term crop loan. This is severely hampering the asset creation in agriculture and allied activities. In order to give a boost to long-term investment credit in agriculture, I propose to set up a long-term rural credit fund in NABARD for the purposes of providing refinance support to cooperative banks and regional rural banks with an initial corpus of 5,000 crores. The short-term cooperative rural credit refinance fund was introduced in the union budget of 2008 and 9 with initial corpus of 5,000 crores. In order to ensure increased and uninterrupted credit flow to farmers and to avoid a high cost of market borrowings by NABARD, I propose to allocate an amount of rupees 5,000 crores for the STRC fund during 2014-15. The issue of profitability of small holdings based agriculture has assumed importance in view of increasing proportion of small and marginal farmers in the country. I propose to supplement NABARD's Producers Organization Development Fund for Producers Development and Upliftment called Produce with a sum of rupees 200 crores, which will be utilized for building 2,000 producers organizations across the country over the next 2 years. Government is committed to reform in the food sector. Restructuring FCI, reducing transportation and distribution losses, and efficacy of PDS would be taken up on priority. Government is also committed to provide wheat and rice at a reasonable price to the weaker sections in the society. Even if due to inadequate rainfall, there is a marginal decline in agricultural production, stocks in the central pool are adequate to meet the exigency. Government shall, when required, undertake open market sales to keep prices under control. Kisan Television, dedicated to the interest of agriculture and allied sectors, will be launched in the current year. This will disseminate real-time information to the farmers, information regarding new farming techniques, water conservation, organic framing. I propose to set aside a sum of rupees 100 crores for this purpose. The e-biz industry, the e-biz platform aids to create a business and investor-friendly ecosystem in India by making all businesses and investments related to clearance and compliances available to 24/7 single portal with an integrated payment gateway. All central government departments and ministries will integrate their services with the e-biz platform on priority by 31st December this year. A national industrial corridor with its headquarters at Pune is being set up to coordinate the deployment of the industrial corridors with smart cities linked to the transport connectivity, which will be the cornerstone of the strategy to drive India's growth in manufacturing and urbanization. I have provided an initial corpus of rupees 100 crores for this purpose. The Amritsar-Kolkata Industrial Master Planning will be completed expeditiously for establishment of an industrial smart cities in 7 states of India. The master planning of these 3 smart cities is the Chennai-Bengaluru Industrial Corridor region, the Puneri in Tamil Nadu, Krishnapatnam in Andhra Pradesh, Tumkur in Karnataka will also be completed. The prospective plan for the Bengaluru-Mumbai Economic Corridor and the Vizag-Chennai Corridor would be completed with the provision of 20 new industrial clusters. Kakinada, its adjoining area, and the port will be developed as key drivers of economic growth in the region with special focus on hardware. Exports cannot be exponentially increased unless states play a very active role in export promotion by providing good infrastructure and full facilitation. It will be our endeavor to engage the states to take India's export to a higher growth trajectory. It is proposed to establish an export promotion mission to bring all stakeholders under one umbrella. The government is committed to revive the special economic zones and make them effective instruments of industrial production, economic growth, export promotion, and employment generation. For achieving this, effective steps would be undertaken to operationalize the special economic zones, to revive the investors' interest, to develop better infrastructure, to effectively and efficiently use the available unutilized land. Comparing the size of Indian economy, the performance of the apprenticeship training scheme is not satisfactory, and a large number of training facilities in industry are unutilized. Apprenticeship Act will be suitably amended to make it more responsive to the industry and youth. It will also encourage the MSMEs to avail of the benefits under the scheme. The SMEs form the backbone of our economy. They account for a large portion of our industrial output and employment. The bulk of service sector enterprises are also SMEs. Most of our SMEs own account enterprises. Most importantly, a majority of these enterprises are owned and run by SCs, STs and OBCs. Financing of this sector is of critical importance, particularly as it benefits the weakest section. There is a need to examine the financial architecture for this sector. I propose to appoint a committee with representatives from the Finance Ministry, Ministry of MSME, RBI to give concrete suggestions in 3 months. Promotion of entrepreneurship and startup companies remains a challenge. While there has been some effort to encourage, one of the principal limitations has been of startup capital by way of equity to be brought in by promoters. In order to create a conducive ecosystem for a venture capital in the MSME sector, it is proposed to establish a rupees 10,000 crore fund to act as a catalyst to attract private capital by way of providing equity, quasi-equity, soft loan and other risk capitals for startup companies. To establish center network to promote innovation, entrepreneurship and agro industries, I propose to set up a fund with a corpus of 200 crores. The definition of MSME will be revived to provide for a higher capital ceiling. A program to facilitate forward and backward linkages with multiple value chains manufacturing and service delivery will also be put in place. Entrepreneurship-friendly legal bankruptcy framework will also be developed for SMEs to enable easy exit. A nationwide district-level incubation and accelerator program would be taken up for an incubation and new ideas and providing necessary support for accelerating entrepreneurship. I propose to set up Trade Facilitation Center and a craft center with a museum with an outlay of 50 crores to develop and promote handloom products and carry out the rich tradition of handlooms of Varanasi, where I intend to support textile mega clusters. I also propose to set up 6 more textiles clusters in Bareilly, Lucknow, Surat, Kutch, Bhagalpur, Mysore and in Tamil Nadu. I am allocating a sum of rupees 200 crores for this purpose. I also propose I also propose to set up a Hastakala Academy for preservation, revival and documentation of the handloom handicraft sector in the PPP mode in Delhi. I have set aside a sum of rupees 30 crores for this purpose. I propose to set up a Pashmina production program P3 and a program for development of other crafts in Jammu and Kashmir. I have set aside a sum of rupees 50 crores for this purpose. India has emerged the largest PPP market in the world with over 900 projects at various stages of infrastructure development. PPCs have delivered some iconic infrastructures like airports, ports, highways, which are seen as models for development globally. But we have also seen the weakness of the PPP framework and the rigidities of the contractual arrangements, the need to develop more nuanced and sophisticated models for contracting and quick dispute redressal mechanism. An institution to provide support for mainstreaming PPCs called the 3P India will be set up with a corpus of 500 crores. Shipping. A policy for encouraging the growth of Indian-controlled tonnage will be formulated to ensure increase in employment of Indian seafarers. Development of ports is also critical to boosting trade. 16 new port projects are proposed to be awarded this year, and a focus on port connectivity, rupees 11,635 crores, will be allocated for the development of the outer harbour projects in Tuticorin for phase 1. SEZs will also be developed in Kandla and JNPT. A comprehensive policy will also be announced to promote Indian shipbuilding industry in current financial year. Navigation, inland navigation. Development of inland waterways can improve.
Nothing will go on record. Nothing will go on record. Only with the money.
बैठो बैठो फिर बाहर जाके भी हाउस के अंदर भी और बाहर भी शोर
Yes, yes.
Development of inland waterways can improve vastly the capacity for transportation
Please,
of goods. A project of River Ganga called the Jal Marg Vikas will be developed from Allahabad to Haldia to cover a distance of 1620 kilometers, which will enable commercial navigation of at least 1500 tonnage vessels. The project will be completed in a period of 6 years at an estimated cost of rupees 4,200 crores. Airports. Despite increase in air connectivity, air travel is still out of reach of a large number of aspirational Indians. Scheme for development of new airports in Tier 1 and Tier 2 will be launched for implementation through the Airport Authority of India and the PPPs. Road sector constitutes a very important artery of communication in the country. The sector has taken shape from 1998 to 2004 under NDA government. The sector again needs huge amount of investment along with the debottlenecking of a maze of clearances. I proposed investment in the National Highway Authority of India and the state roads of an amount of rupees 37,880 crores, which will include rupees 3,000 crores for the Northeast. During the CFI, a target of national highway construction of 8,500 crores will be achieved. A modern nation needs multiple sources of transportation. A country of India's size must have a transport network which can ensure faster travel across the cities which are geographically distant. This will also improve the supply chain in transporting goods across cities. We will initiate work on selective expressways in parallel to the development of industrial corridor. A project preparation of NHAI shall be set aside. For project preparation, NHAI will be set aside a further sum of rupees 500 crores. Power. To promote cleaner and more efficient thermal power, I propose to allocate a sum of rupees 100 crores for preparatory work of the new scheme called the ultra-modern supercritical coal-based thermal power technology. Comprehensive measures for enhancing domestic coal production are being put in place along with stringent mechanism for quality control and environmental protection, which includes supply of crushed coal and setting up of washeries. The existing impasse of coal sector will be resolved with the adequate quantity of coal will be provided in the power plants which are already commissioned and would be commissioned by March 2015 to unlock dead investments and exercise to rationalize coal linkages which will optimize transport of coal and reduce power costs is underway. New and renewable energy deserves a very high priority. It is proposed to take up ultra-modern solar power projects in Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu and in Ladakh in J&K. I have set aside a sum of rupees 500 crores for this purpose. We are launching a scheme for solar power driven agricultural pumps and water pumping stations for energizing 1 lakh pumps. I propose to allocate a sum of rupees 400 crores for this purpose. An additional amount of 100 crores is set aside for the development of 1 MY solar parks on the banks of canals. Implementation of green energy corridor projects will be accelerated in this financial year to facilitate evacuation of renewable energy across the country. Petroleum and natural gas. It is my government's intention to accelerate production and exploration of coal bed methane reserves. The possibility of using modern technology to revive old and closed wells still will be explored to maximize production from such fields. The usage of PNG will be rapidly called up in the mission mode as it is clean and efficient to deliver. We have at present 15,000 kilometers of gas pipeline systems in the country. In order to complete the gas grid across the country, an additional 15,000 kilometers of pipelines are required. It is proposed to develop these pipelines under appropriate PPP models. This will help in increasing the usage of gas domestic as also imported, which in the long term will be beneficial in reducing dependence on any one energy source. Mining. It is my government's intention to encourage investment in the mining sector and promote sustainable mining practices to adequately meet the requirements of industry without sacrificing environmental concerns. The current impasse in the mining sector, including iron ore mining, will be resolved expeditiously. Changes, if necessary, in the MMRD Act would be introduced to facilitate this. There has been a request from several state governments to revise the rate of royalty on minerals. Honorable members are aware that royalty can be revised after a period of 3 years. Last revision took place in August 2009. Therefore, another revision which is due will be undertaken to ensure greater revenue to the state governments. Financial sector, capital market. Financial sector is at the heart of the growth engine. Globalization helps channelize external savings to India to bridge the resource gap, but also renders the financial sector vulnerable to vagaries of the global economy. We have seen in the recent past, in ample measure, it is essential to strengthen and modernize the legislative regulatory framework. There are some important recommendations of the Financial Sector Legislative Reforms Commission, like enactment of the Indian Financial Code, which is considered necessary for better governance and accountability. It is my endeavour to complete the ongoing process of consultation with all stakeholders expeditiously on this. It is also essential to have a modern monetary policy framework to meet the challenges of an increasingly complex economy. Government will, in close consultations with the RBI, put in place such a framework. While the impact of above measures will be felt in medium term, towards the same object I propose, advise financial sector regulators to take early steps for vibrant, deep and liquid corporate bond market and deepen the currency derivatives market by eliminating unnecessary restrictions. Extend a liberalized facility of 5% withholding tax to all bonds issued by Indian corporates abroad for all sectors and extend this validity of the scheme to 30th June 2017. Liberalize the ADR-GDR regime to allow issuance of depository receipts on all permissible security. Allow international settlement of Indian debt securities. Completely revamp the Indian depository receipts and introduce a much more liberal, ambitious Bharat depository receipt. Clarify the tax treatment on income of foreign funds whose fund managers are located in India to resolve a long-standing problem. Details will be presented in Part B. The Indian capital market has been a source of risk capital for growing India. I propose to take a number of measures to further energize these markets, including introduction of uniform KYC norms for interusability of the KYC records across the entire financial sector. Introduce one single operating demat account so that Indian financial sector consumers can access, transact all financial assets through this one account. At all the strengthening the regulatory framework of the commodity markets, the Warehouse Development and Regulatory Authority has been transforming plan to invigorate the warehousing sector and significantly improve the post-harvesting lending to the farmers against negotiable warehousing receipts. This plan will be implemented with vigor. There is an urgent need to converge the current Indian accounting standards with international financing standards. I propose for the adoption of the new Indian accounting standards by Indian companies from financial year 2015-16 voluntarily and from the year 2016-17 on a mandatory basis. Based on international consensus, the regulators will separately notify The date of implementation of the accounting standards for banks, insurance companies, standards for computation of tax would be notified separately. Banking. There have been some suggestions for consolidation of public sector banks. Government in principle agrees to consider these suggestions. To provide all households in India with banking services, a time-bound program will be launched as the Financial Inclusion Mission on 15th August this year. It would particularly focus to empower the weaker section of the society, including women and marginal farmers and laborers. 2 bank accounts in each household are proposed to be opened, which will also be eligible for credit. Long-term financing of infrastructure has been a major constraint in encouraging larger private sector participation in this sector. On the other side, banks will be encouraged to extend long-term loans to infrastructure sector with flexible structuring to absorb potential adverse contingencies, sometimes known as 5/25 structure. On the liability side, banks will be permitted to raise long-term funds for lending to infrastructure sector with minimum regulatory preemption such as CRR, SLR and priority sector lending. After making suitable changes to the current framework, a structure will be put in place for continuous authorization of universal banks in private sectors. In the current financial year, RBI will create a framework for licensing small banks and other differentiated banks. Differentiated banks serving a niche interest in local banks, payment banks, etc. are contemplated to meet credit and remittance needs of small businesses, unorganized sector, lower income households, framers and migrant workforce. The rising of non-performing assets of public sector is a matter of concern for the government. 6 new debt recovery tribunals would be set up at Chandigarh, Bengaluru, Irkakulam, Dehradun, Siliguri and Hyderabad. Government will work out an effective means for revival of other stressed assets. Insurance. Benefits of insurance in India have not reached the larger section of the people, and insurance penetration and density are still very low. The government would work towards addressing this situation in a multi-pronged manner with the support of all stakeholders. This would include suitable incentives using banking correspondents, strengthening micro offices opened by public sector insurances. It is also proposed to take up the pending Insurance Law Amendment Bill for consideration of Parliament. As a part of the legislative initiatives under the financial sector reforms, it is proposed to bridge the regulatory gap under the Price Chit Fund Money Circulation Act, 1978. This step is expected to facilitate effective regulation of companies and entities which have been duped by a large number of poor, and vulnerable people of this country. To address the concerns of decline in savings rate and improving returns to small savers, I propose to revitalize small saving schemes. My government attaches utmost welfare for the girl child. A special small saving instrument to cater to the requirements of educating and marriage of the girl child will be introduced. A national savings certificate will ensure benefit, with insurance cover, will be launched to provide additional benefits for small savers. In the PPF scheme, the annual ceiling will be enhanced to 1.5 lakhs per annum from 1 lakh at present. There is no compromise with the defence of our country. I therefore propose to allocate a sum of rupees 2,29,000 crores in the current financial year for defence. We reaffirm our commitment to our brave soldiers. A policy of one rank, one pension has been adopted by the government to address the pension disparities. We propose to set up a further sum of rupees 1,000 crores to meet this year's requirements. Modernization of armed forces is critical to enable them to play their role effectively in the defence of India's strategic interest. I therefore propose to increase the capital outlay of defence by rupees 5,000 crores over and above the amount provided in the interim budget. This includes a sum of rupees 1,000 crores for accelerating the development of the railway system in the border areas. Urgent steps will also be taken to streamline the procurement process to make it speedy and more efficient. War Memorial. The country is deeply indebted to officers and jawans of the armed forces for having made huge sacrifices to defend its honor. In doing so, a very large number of them gave up their lives. It is a privilege for the nation to erect a befitting war memorial in their memory. I am happy to announce that a war memorial will be constructed at the Prince's Park. It will also be supplemented by a war museum. I am allocating a sum of rupees 100 crores for this purpose. In the year 2011, a separate fund was announced to provide necessary resources to public-private sector companies, including SMEs, as well as academic and scientific institutions, to support research and development of the defense system and enhance cutting-edge technologies capability of the country. However, beyond the announcement, no action was taken. I therefore propose to set up an initial sum of rupees 100 crores to set up a technology development fund to support this object. The scheme for modernization of the state police forces would be reviewed. I propose to enhance the allocation for a sum of rupees 1847 in the budget estimates of last year to rupees 3,000 in the current financial year. I am also allocating adequate funds for carrying out small but much needed development activities of this additional central assistance for left-wing extremist affected areas. In order to strengthen and modernize border infrastructure, a sum of rupees 2,250 crore has been set aside. In addition, a sum of rupees 990 crores has been allocated for socio-economic development of the villages along the border. A sum of rupees 150 has been earmarked for the construction of the marine police stations, jetties, and for purchase of boats. The nation is equally indebted to the officers and the jawans of the police forces, including the Central Armed Police Forces, who are constantly engaged with the enemy within and in the process of sacrificing their lives in the line of duty. I announce the construction of a befitting National Police Memorial. I propose to set aside a sum of rupees 50 crores for this purpose in the current year. India's rich cultural, historical, religious and natural heritage provides a huge potential for development of tourism and job creation as an industry. I propose to create 5 tourist circuits around the specific themes and set aside rupees 500 crores for this purpose. The National Mission on Pilgrimage, Rejuvenation and Spiritual Augmentation Drive will be launched this year. A sum of rupees 100 crores is being earmarked for this purpose. National Heritage Development and Augmentation Yojana will be launched for conserving and preserving the heritage character of these cities. To begin with, I propose to launch this program in the cities such as Mathura, Amritsar, Gaya, Kanchipuram, Vilakanani and Ajmer. I propose to set aside a sum of rupees 200 crores for this purpose. The project will, through a partnership of the government, academic institutions and local community combine, offer affordable technologies. Archaeological sites preservation requires urgent attention, lest our ancient heritage is lost to all future generations. For this, I propose to set aside a sum of rupees 100 crores. Samarth Gaya Varanasi Buddhist Circus would also be developed with a world-class tourism amenities to attract tourists from all over the world. Goa has emerged as a major international convention center. It has also been declared a permanent venue of the International Film Festival of India. There is a urgent need to develop a world-class convention facilities. This can at best be done in close collaboration with private sector. Government of India will fully support the initiative to develop the facilities of the PPP board through the VGF scheme. Water resources and the cleaning of the Ganga. Rivers are the lifeline of our country. They provide water not only for producing food and multitudes but also drinking water. Unfortunately, the country is not uniformly blessed with perennial rivers. Therefore, an effort to link rivers can give rich dividends to the country. It is time that we make serious effort to move in this direction. To expedite the preparation of a detailed project report, I propose to set aside a sum of rupees 100 crores. For a detailed study, for a report, substantial amount of money has been spent.
Why? What is happening?
100 crore rupees for a report.
There must be some limit.
Substantial amount of money has been spent in conservation and the improvement of the Ganga, which has very sacred place in the collective consciousness of this country. However, the efforts have not yielded the desired results because of lack of concerted effort by all stakeholders. I propose to set up an integrated Ganga conservation mission called the Namami Ganga and set aside a sum of rupees 2,037 crores for this purpose. Our riverfronts and ghats, our riverfronts. Our riverfronts and ghats are not only places of rich historical heritage, but many of these are also sacred. To start this process in the country, I propose to set aside rupees 100 crore for ghat development and beautification of the riverfronts in Kedarnath, Haridwar, Kanpur, Varanasi, Allahabad, Patna and Delhi in the current financial year. NRIs have been an important contributor to the development process of India in areas such as education, health and preservation of culture. In this context, to harness their enthusiasm to contribute towards conservation of the river Ganga, NRI fund for Ganga will be set up, which will finance the special projects. Science and technology. The Department of Science and Technology has some of country's leading research centers in areas such as nanotechnology, material science and biomedical device technologies. The government will strengthen at least 5 such institutions as technical research centers to make them more effective in innovative spaces through public-private partnership. The government development of the biotech clusters